And just like that, we are in season 2 of our time at FC Porto. It is just about the 1st of January, and man, have we been busy. And hello again, everyone, to episode number 120 of Bottom to the Top. We are starting our second season as FC Porto. Yes, the first season was only 5 matches long. So we are really going to work very hard to mold this team into our own image. And one of the things that we are going to do, and we'll talk about this in just a little bit, is we are actually going to rectify the mistakes at Porto that we ended up making at Arsenal, namely looking at all of these great aging players, guys who are past their prime but still look pretty good on paper, guys who have names that we recognize and realize that maybe their future is not here and we need to start thinking about that future sooner rather than later. Our fixtures have been released. We're going to open things up against AVS SAD. I don't know if it's AVS SAD or how you really say that, but AVS is going to be our first opponent. Our initial O Classico derby is going to take place on the road at Benfica on August the 19th. That is the 3rd match of the season and the 2nd away match in a row. The return fixture will be in the middle of January, and we end things up against Moreirense in the middle of May. We had 4 players out on loan. Those loans are coming to a close. One player, though, will not be returning to us, Matti Manami. Part of the deal to send him to Frosinone Calcio in Italy was a future transfer fee of $24.5 million that has been executed. So the defensive midfielder slash diminutive center back, defensive midfielder, he is off to Italy, the 29-year-old, getting us 24.5 million euros. One player coming back I am kind of excited about. We've already talked about him. It's Andre Martins, the 20-year-old Portuguese national. Now, he has only capped 1 time at the U21 level, no senior caps. That's a little disconcerting, but remember, we were saying he was out on loan to Millwall while we had a player who was almost identical in on loan from Ajax. Well, now Andre Martins is back, and he will most likely be taking over the duties of our deep-lying playmaking midfielder. The reason being, we are probably saying goodbye to the player who currently is occupying that role. But again, we'll get to that once all of the outgoings actually take place about 24 hours from now. Also on their way back is Filip Sidklev, a 30-year-old goalkeeper. We're probably going to keep him around, stick him on the bench. We'll again get to the goalkeeping situation in just a little bit. We did talk about this quite extensively. How Ngidi was the best of our goalkeepers, even though he only stood 5'10", didn't really have the reach we expected. Decent reflexes, good shot-stopping ability, but maybe not necessarily the be-all, end-all as far as the future is concerned. And obviously behind him, there was a massive drop-off. So Filip Sidklev coming back could serve as a very serviceable backup for the starting goalkeeper, whoever he may be. And finally, returning from a stint at Villarreal is 22-year-old Mexican international Jorge Meza, a right winger. Could maybe move into the center, probably not. He is not really capable of there. I guess they stuck him there once or twice while he was out on loan. He's already capped 23 times for Mexico and scored 4 goals at the ripe old age of 22 years old. He will be given an opportunity to slot in, most likely in a backup role on that right wing. We talked about, again, in the last episode, how most of our aging attack was on the outside. So our left and right wings are most likely going to be brand new when we start the season in just about 6 weeks from now. Before I forget, remember how we were talking about we made the Champions League in our last episode and we were going to be entering in the 3rd qualifying round? Well, guess what? Due to coefficients, we were actually awarded a spot in the league phase, so we do not have to work our way into the league phase, we are guaranteed 8 matches in the Champions League to strut our stuff this coming season. So, what kind of remolding of FC Porto have we done? Well, the first one I'm going to show you had nothing to do with us. This was actually approved and accepted before we ever took the reins. A free transfer of an 18-year-old from Argentina named Diego Arancibia. No youth caps, no international caps for the senior team. He's kind of mediocre. We've already put him on the loan list, and he is probably not going to see the light of day at FC Porto this year, probably next year, and wouldn't be surprised the year after. He's actually only here on a 1-year contract. Maybe we can build his value up just a little bit and get something for him in the end. No, we have been a bit more bold, and we are actually loading up on the attack because we've talked about this for the last couple of episodes. This is going to be an attack-driven team. 18-year-old Argentinian U20 international Gonzalo Perez is the first one through the door. We paid $6.25 million from Defensa y Justicia. Fantastic dribbling ability, very determined player. I love his work rate. He's also 6'6", and we were looking to get somebody in that kind of targety man type of role. We wanted a big guy who could get in the air with a great personality, who was driven to work, and Perez, well, he fits that bill. Next up is 19-year-old Peruvian international Cesar Ventura. Now, when we signed him, we actually got a really good deal for him. We paid just under €1 million, and it was a bit of a punt, to be fair. Great passing ability, really good-ish defensively. I mean, that needs a little bit of work, but once he gets the ball away from you, he knows what to do with it, and his decision-making ability is fantastic. Look at the value on him now. 25 to 29 million. What a rate of return for the 19-year-old. Obviously, we're not going to be moving him on, but if things don't work out the way we maybe expect them to with him, this could be a very nice investment for FC Porto. It is blowing my mind a little bit to see players signed through June of 2040. Another striker coming in, this one from Brazil, a U23 international, Armando. What a finishing ability he has. A little bit more on the diminutive side, so he's more in the Cesar Ramos mold. We're going to be rotating these players in left, right, and center. $11.25 million for him. He is going to be making $60,000 a week, but if you remember the salaries of the players that were up there before, we're talking 100, 120, 140, 185,000 euros a week. We're actually saving money on the back end while we continue to build for the future. And while Philip Sidklev may be the solution in the backup role for goalkeeper, our starting goalkeeper worries may be solved by Czech international Radek Vítek. Yes, he's 31. I know we were talking a lot about a youth movement. I think my exception is going to be for giant 6'6" goalkeepers who have decent command of their area, are fantastic with one-on-ones, and can get all over the place and are highly acrobatic. Maybe he's a little bit more eccentric than we would necessarily like, so we will keep our eye on that, especially if we play him in a more sweeper-keeper type role. But $10.75 million for a high-quality goalkeeper from Juve, I'll take it. But I think this is my favorite signing of the window so far. Gurke Asar, out of Germany, wanted out of his home country. He was at Hoffenheim. He's like, get me out of here. The 21-year-old German international has already capped 8 times for Germany and scored 4 goals. We paid a hefty sum, a record sum, 93 million euros. Yes, it was a lot of money, but he is signed for the next 5 years, and he has a tremendous amount of value. Look at those physicals. He is fast. He can run all over the pitch all day long. His anticipation is just mwah. And his technical ability, well, that ain't half bad either. We were looking to replace guys on the wing. At least on the right-hand side, we found our man. Now, you may be wondering to yourself, Mr. Cellophane, you said you only had $33 million to spend, but you just dropped 93 on one player and one player alone. Well, that's because we not only brought players in, we sent a number of them packing. The first one out the door was Journeyman, the 25-year-old Brazilian. Decent player. He kind of did all right in that final match of the season that we watched in the last episode, but he was unhappy. He wanted to go. So we said, okay. And we started a little bidding war and got 12 million for him, which wasn't too shabby considering we thought we were going to only get away with like maybe 7. But he wasn't the only one. Lindukule Ngidi, our starting goalkeeper last year, who was, to be fair, very good for us. He made the All-African CAF 11 of the year. However, he wanted bigger and better things. He was being courted by the Premier League. He was like, I want to go to there. So we said, fine. We got 27 million from Leicester. We couldn't turn it down. He wanted to go. We were okay letting him go because even though, again, he played very well, he doesn't really fit the mold of what we typically look for in a starting goalkeeper. We knew we would be shopping for one. We spent less on a new one than we got for the old guy. But we didn't stop there. Now, we are going to probably have to have a very hefty cream puff schedule in our preseason to get our team dynamics back in place because a lot of fan favorites and even some leaders in the locker room have left us. We are trying to pare down the salary, keep things a little bit more manageable, not spend so much money on just 1, 2, or 3 players, and also start that movement for the future, not get bogged down like we did at Arsenal, where we kind of worked ourselves into a cul-de-sac. So 6'4", Alvaro Rodriguez has left the building. 68 million for Al Ittihad. This one was kind of interesting. We asked his agent if there was any interest in him. We knew Al Ittihad was not only interested in him, he was interested in them. They put in an offer of like 35 million-ish, 37, 40 million. I don't remember what it was. And there was also another Saudi Arabian team that was in the mix. We accepted the offer for Al Ittihad and then tried to start a bidding war. Well, by the time the other team, I think it was Al Riyadh, came in and we accepted their offer and canceled the offer from Al Ittihad to, continue it going, he came to us and said, I'm upset. I want to go to Al Ittihad. Why did you stop it? And we said, well, the money wasn't good enough. And he said, okay, well, I think this will be good enough. And he came up with a number of 68 million euros, which we agreed to. Now, we were continuing to go back and forth between the two teams, and I'm fairly certain that the highest bidder at the time was Al Ittihad when we decided to go back to the agent and say, hey, is there any additional interest in Alvaro Rodriguez? And they said, well, I think I can get you a 68 million euro offer. And I'm like, well, that's like 28 million more than we're getting right now. Bring it. And it was Al Ittihad. So the 30-year-old striker is out the door and into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And well, you know what? It's a popular destination for our aging players. Team captain Mike Klein out the door. He's on his way to Al Ahly again in Saudi Arabia. Now, we already think that we have found our potential replacement for him. We were talking about that a little earlier. I didn't want to mention Mike Klein by name because I didn't want to give anything away. 30 million for the 30-year-old to make it to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, he's seen a slight bump in value. He was a very good player for us, but sadly, again, we didn't want to have him playing for us while he was going through his eventual decline. We're trying to get younger. We're trying to look more toward the future. We are building something very special here at FC Porto, and Mike Klein, unfortunately, is a casualty of that. As was Juan David Mascara, who was the previous getter of the record high transfer. I believe it was 53 million euros when he showed up in 2027. The now 32-year-old right back wasn't getting playing time with us. We were paying him, I think it was 140,000 euros per week. It was just way too much for the Portuguese-Colombian dual national. So he is out the door. He'll be spending the next 3 years at Al Qadsiya. Hope I said that right. Doesn't matter. Bye. And finally, 36.5 million for the 31-year-old Savio. While a very good player, while he was popular, he was also very expensive, as you can see by the amount of money he is earning at Al Ali for the next couple of years. $775,000 per week. It was a no-brainer for him. It was kind of a no-brainer for us as well. He was, again, relegated actually to a bench role. He was our third choice out on the wing. So he was kind of backing up both the left and the right wing side. It was a lot of money for us to be spending. He only played 55 matches for Porto over a 3-year span. So it was a lot of money down the drain. We cashed in, and we cashed in now. So at this very moment, we actually find ourselves in an extraordinarily healthy financial position. You remember a couple episodes ago, we were talking about how we were over 70 million in debt. That has been all wiped away. We have 40 million in the bank now. Of course, we did get TV money for the upcoming season, participation money from the coefficient pool in the Champions League, and of course, the transfers we have done. We're only getting 70% of our transfer revenue right now. We have asked the board to up that. We have also asked them to improve our youth facilities and up our junior coaching budget. We're awaiting decisions on all of those things. And, oh yeah, we asked them if they would expand the stadium. Well, we're basically selling out. We've got a waiting list for season ticket holders. We should be able to dream. We get more seats, we get more butts in those seats, and those butts each have to pay to be there. That's a really weird way for me to say it. I'll stop talking about this now. We are still trying to work out who is going to be our starting left wing for the coming season. We have a few options. Don't love most of them. Right now, our top choice is Antonio Nusa, the 30-year-old making $185,000 a week. He is under bid to Al Hilal for a 40 million euro transfer, which is less than was paid for him back when he joined the club for 63 million. That is neither here nor there. We're not concerned about profit or loss overall. We are just concerned about getting the deal done. But Nusa most likely is going to be out the door sooner rather than later, so we need his replacement in the door sooner rather than later. Another player who most likely will be making a move out of Portugal in the coming weeks is 23-year-old Paraguayan international Gustavo Villasanti. The 23-year-old, did I already say that? Probably did. He wanted to be out of the club. He wasn't happy. He was our third choice left back behind Sandro and Sean Smith. So we figured no great loss. He's currently under a 25 million euro bid from Sunderland. So if he wants to go to England, go for it. Well, this should make it easier to find our new left wing. We are now getting 85% of all transfer revenue. Meanwhile, the junior coaching budget has been increased. And the board, it says they rejected it, but we had a little chat. The board has agreed to improve the club's youth facilities. It's going to cost 6.25 million euros, and the work will be completed in December. Our search for a left-wing replacement does still continue, and honestly, it has been a little frustrating. Either players want too much money for salary, their teams want too high a transfer fee, or they just want to go somewhere else. Such was the case of Miroslav Pajic. We tried to sign him. We put in an offer. It was a pretty good one as well, and he's a fairly affordable player. Decent. I mean, he may not be the absolute best, most world-class left wing out there, but we liked his personality. We thought his technique was pretty good, and his physicals were in great shape. However, he was waiting for an offer from Domac because that's where he wanted to go. That offer came in, and that's where he went. We were also considering getting in on the sweepstakes for Paulo Bello, a 24-year-old Peruvian international. Again, decent but not spectacular, kind of the best of the bunch that was affordable, but a bidding war was starting to develop. It was getting to the point where we didn't really feel like shelling out over 20 million euros for a player like Bello, not thinking that he was the be-all and end-all, so eventually we just pulled out of the race. Now, a player we were very interested in was Emanuele Morelli, another 24-year-old, this one Italian, currently at Napoli. Was suggested by our director of football as a potential loan target. We looked at him. 50 million is a bit steep, but he's currently making over 100,000 a week. He wants around 150 grand, which was a little too steep for us, so we decided to try to get him in on loan. But Napoli at the time basically wanted us to pay his entire current wage, which is already above what we feel comfortable paying on an individual player, and a monthly fee, and include a mandatory transfer fee. Now, the monthly fee was around 150 grand a month, which is pretty hefty if you then add a mandatory 43.5 million fee on top. So we had to back out of those negotiations as well. In fact, we just checked again, and it was 175,000 per month, plus 100% of his salary, and a mandatory future fee of 48.5 million. Andrei Mishuk, the 22-year-old Russian, although not an international, a pretty good player on paper, currently making 20,000 a week at Club Brugge. We asked about what he would look for. I mean, 28 million, a little pricey, but you got to pay what you got to pay. We have about 100 million to work with, and not a ton of targets out there, to be perfectly honest with you. And he wanted 120 grand a week. We said no. Now, we're still scouting him, but Andreas Gamboa could potentially be an option. A complete defensive liability. We are not worrying about that. But if you look at the 10 poles of what we are looking for the role that we play, he's a pretty decent player. Probably going to cost us around 10 million for a transfer fee. And he's looking for about 30 on the max end as far as a salary is concerned. Whether he is our starter or just an option that we develop and maybe look to sell on, the 21-year-old Colombian is in the mix. This all being said, things aren't so terrible so far in the preseason. Basilio dos Santos has been playing in that left wing position quite a bit throughout our friendlies. He did score the first goal in a match that just took place against the Storia Praia, which is a Liga Portugal side, so not too bad. Also, 16-year-old Rui Bernardino. He's more naturally a striker. We're trying to get him to work on some of his attacking things. He's only 16. He's young. He's raw. He came in through our youth intake last year or the year before. Added an assist in that same match. Are we saying that he is the be-all and end-all? Absolutely not. But if we have to enter the season with one deficiency, if it happens to be left wing, it happens to be left wing. I'm starting to think we bring a bunch of young folks in, and if we have to loan them out, we loan them out. Heck, we may even dip back into the Fulham pool. David Zambrano, the 24-year-old, is available at a decent value. We're still doing a little bit more scouting just to refresh our memories on him. He was basically sitting behind guys like Toshimitsu Endo and Federico Guerrero and Tom Burford, and never really got the opportunity at Craven Cottage, or whatever the stadium is called now. I forgot we were building a new stadium when we left. Wonder if it's finished. We'll have to check on that off camera. David Zambrano, though? Possibility. Mini rant time. It is the preseason. Do not come to me and complain that you're not playing enough first team football. It is preseason. You're 22 years old. You will get your opportunities here or elsewhere. But all you are doing right now by coming to me with this is putting yourself at the top of my list. Apparently, his complaints were born out of the fact that he wants to be able to feature for the Mexican national team. So we said to him, well, you need to decide what's more important, your country or your club. He chose his club. Oh ho ho, just show a little patience, and what you ask for may just come to you. We have signed Daniel Zungu from Royal Sport Club Anderlecht, the Belgian South African dual national with 22 goals, 58 international caps. Cost us 35 million euros, which actually is not that bad a price for a player of his quality, with his mentality. The fans love his positive attitude, and they are poised to buy his shirt. So we're going to add a little money to the coffers as well. $95,000 a week is going to be one of our highest paid players, but that is okay. We kind of set a soft limit for ourselves of $100,000. The fact that we are under that makes me very, very happy. And we are cognizant that Zunga is a little bit older than a lot of the players we've brought in, so we did make another move for some depth on the left wing. Alex van Riel from the Netherlands. He's only capped once at the U21 level. That's okay. Kind of like him. He works hard, and he is going to put in a shift. In our last friendly match against FC Utrecht, he picked up an assist. $6.25 million from Sparta Rotterdam to bring him aboard. Unfortunately, we're not 100% settled at goalkeeper. Radek Vitek sprained some ankle ligaments. He's going to be out for probably the first 2, maybe 3 weeks of the regular season. Now, we fully expected Philip Siedklev to fill that gap as our backup. He was out on loan last year. Well, we've come to realize he was out on loan because he just wants out. I guess there must have been a potential future fee that was going to be paid that didn't end up happening. So basically, once he came back, he was like, yeah, dude, I just don't want to be here. Now, he has done very, very well, giving up only 1 goal so far in the preseason. We've had a nice mix of lower league teams, our league teams, and even some top flight teams from neighboring nations. So he has been put to the test to a certain degree, although our defense, frankly, has been fantastic. So with Siedklev potentially on his way out the door, we grabbed another backup goalkeeper, this one coming from Visu, a newly promoted team up into Liga Portugal. The 28-year-old will now serve as Vitek's understudy, assuming that we can find a buyer for the other guy. Pretty decent, 6'3", not spectacular by any stretch of the imagination, but to serve as a backup, come in every once in a while, maybe play in the cup. Ferreira, he's pretty good. Unfortunately, with all of the interest that we're seeing in Siedklev, we still have not yet gotten an offer. We may need to loan him out for another year, which is honestly not what we're really looking to do. So with the regular season bearing down on us in just a couple of weeks, this is probably what we are going to look like on opening day. Still not decided on every single position. Obviously, Vitek will not be in goal. It'll most likely be Diogo Ferreira, although he is still recovering from an injury, so he may not be ready for week 1. Sandro will be our left back. Cunha will potentially be at right back, although we do have other options at that position. Smith and Martinez most likely will be our pairing in the middle. However, we do have some additional options. Gui Katau is an important player to this squad, so maybe Smith will shift out to the left back every once in a while. We also have another youngster just ready and raring to go in Felipe Lopez, who could also slot in at center back. Martins and Picado potentially in the midfield. Ventura, another wonder kid, might get some opportunities in that position. Nino Acklin, who we picked up last year. We didn't pick up. He was picked up by Porto. Can also play in those positions. Zungu and Akar are set as our starting wings. And we're going to be looking at Perez and Ramos as our strikers. Now, Ramos did suffer an injury very early in training camp. He hasn't really gotten himself up to match fitness yet, so he's not quite ready to go, but hopefully by the time the regular season starts, he will be A-okay. He's not the only players that can be up there, though. Yol Chol may not be a lot to look at, but he is one of the hardest workers on the squad. He may earn himself that position. Armando did very well in the preseason, and we are still haven't really punted on Pintos yet either. Let me know in your comments what you think about our starting lineup as we begin our first full season at FC Porto. We'll be back on Monday for the start of the regular season. I can't wait. Please make sure you like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Thank you to everyone who has. Thank you for spending the time with me today and yesterday and the day before and any of the other videos that I've put together that you have watched. I greatly appreciate your time and your eyeballs. I look forward to seeing you on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.